it just touched on it beautifully. It caught that perfectly, the whole experience of Alzheimer's that's there. And it was so moving and emotional to me personally.
I think when Phil recorded it, he was on his own in the studio and we were all sort of in bits at the end. I think it's he performed it in a way that I couldn't even have predicted. I mean, it was when the original production of the play happened, that version of Harry was wonderful too. And I'm really glad that it resonates with people. I do need to stop making people cry. But I'm really glad that it resonates with people and for people who've experienced the disease, which I found since this play has come out is pretty much everybody. A lot of people have been touched by dementia and Alzheimer's in some way. And yeah, I'm really glad that it resonates with people and hopefully we'll kind of have more of an impact as a result.
That last speech was the one that made me want to do more with it as a play, because that monologue, it's delivered by Harry on his own, and it's so beautifully visual in its own way.
Hello and welcome to Pods Like Us. I'm Martin Quibell, known to my friends as Marv, and this time I am speaking with the producer and the writer of a fantastic audio drama that's based on a stage play called Harry's Home, that is about a character named Harry, portrayed in the audio drama by Phil Davis, and his daughter is portrayed by Nicola Bryant. Harry is returning back home. He suffers from Alzheimer's, which is a personal thing to myself as well, from my own history with my mother. So it was poignant to me. And then there are difficulties with some of the family members, and it's about them trying to work around this and work out what their relationships are and the issues that they have. So, yep, I'm speaking with the producer, Helen Quigley and Hannah Puddefoot. Thank you for speaking with me today.
You're welcome. Looking forward to it.
Thank you for having us.
Hannah, originally it started as a stage play because your history is in theatre and the stage. What sort of things inspired you to go into theatre?
Yeah, so I have always been writing since I was very little, and it's the career I've wanted since I was a kid, really. My degree was in creative writing, and I did a master's in script writing, and I've always really loved the theatre, and just loved kind of the medium of being able to see productions come to life on stage. And I worked with a lot of brilliant non-professional groups in London. And when I moved to London, I sort of got into working with a few of the Southwest. So I'm in Southwest, so it was Southwest London groups. And I also worked with Theatre 503. So I got a play produced with them, which was a short play. They do regular writers' response nights. So the writers can come and watch the play, and then they'll write 10-minute responses to that play. And that was a play called BU21, which is it's actually about a plane crash in London City. So the plane crashes into London, and I wrote a response to that. So I've worked with kind of theatre productions a lot. And I sort of got contacted by Helen about Theatre at Baddow, which is one of the many groups that Helen works with. And she was doing one-act plays. And I've always had an interest in dementia and Alzheimer's and working with that topic. And it kind of fell into place that I wrote something along those lines for Helen's production as well.
So if it isn't too difficult a question to answer, what inspired you to look at Alzheimer's as a subject for this play? Is it just something that you thought that needed to be brought to light?
I've always been around the disease. So my mum was an occupational therapist. She's retired now. And worked with dementia patients for her career. So I was in and out as a child of nursing homes where she worked when I was younger. And one, she has an incredibly passionate view of anyone who is suffering from this disease and how they should be treated, the respect that they should be treated with. which isn't always possible. And it's very, very difficult for families who care for loved ones with Alzheimer's and dementia. It's incredibly hard. And so my mum would support the carers and the patients through the sort of transition of the disease. And also my grandmother passed away from Alzheimer's, I think just under 10 years ago. And she was an incredibly creative woman. She was a photographer, an artist, you name it, she did it really. It's a difficult topic, so I won't sort of go too deeply into it, but you sort of see how people are stripped away with the disease and you kind of lose who they are and their individuality. And observing it as well as experiencing that in my childhood, I feel like it's a very important thing to talk about. And it's something that I think my mum said a lot. Alzheimer's is a bit like cancer in the 60s. It wasn't really talked about.
Yeah.
And I don't think many people do. I think people are getting better at it now, but I don't think many people talk about the disease and the difficulties that come with it. So anything that can get that dialogue going, I think is really positive. So that was kind of the inspiration behind it.
It's interesting because of the characterizations that you've got in the play. So as a quick sort of introduction to people, Harry has been in a care environment and there was an incident that happened. So Harry's ended up coming back to the family home, which was his own and his wife's home until he went into care, and then it's become like the family home. But he's come back to that home, and Harry is played by the fantastic Phil Davis, and his daughter is played by Nicola Bryant, who's one of the executive producers, I believe, as well. And then what I find interesting is direct children have a problem and they're trying to skirt around it and having a problem with him and are worried this, that and the other. Whereas the grandchild, I think there's one grandchild, it's a while since I've listened to it, they seem to almost take it in the stride. And there's like a humour between them and Harry that it's not really taking the Mickey, as we say in England, of it, but they've got a better relationship because of it. There's not that distance there, that problem to the younger characters.
Yeah, and I think, yes, there's two grandchildren, Keith and Laurie. And it's something I've observed as well, which is said with zero judgment whatsoever. It's very hard for children to look after parents anyway. And I think when somebody is suffering from Alzheimer's and dementia, it's very difficult to separate the childhood and the whole life you've had with that person and then also try and care for them. Many people do it absolutely brilliantly. Many people struggle with it. And I kind of wanted to highlight the kind of distance that sometimes a grandchild and a grandparent can have.
Yep.
And you have more kind of sympathy and compassion sometimes. And again, that's not anything negative against the families that care for their relatives, but it's just easier as a grandchild to try and have a bit more empathy with your grandparent because it's a very different relationship. So I wanted that to kind of come across. And Rose Quentin and Timothy Blore, who play those characters, just did such a brilliant job of it. And I felt like it really came across in the way that they performed it as well.
So do I. I mean, Harry is in an earlier stage of Alzheimer's, to my mind, because, I mean, I've seen later stage Alzheimer's, which is terrible, which is why you have these bits where something will be said by one of the grandchildren, and then, in fact, Harry will say, well, it's okay, because come the morning, I'll have forgotten about that anyway. And it's not making light of it, it's just making it more comfortable for each other. They have this sort of rapport between the grandchildren and the grandfather there that allows for that. And you do get the moments where Nicola Bryant's character, for example, most importantly, she will catch these moments and she doesn't like the fact that they've got this rapport going on. She finds it almost offensive in a way that they're making light of it to her mind.
Yeah, and I think for Theresa's character and the way Nicola played her as well, it's incredibly hard for her to be in this new relationship with her dad, where her children have a more positive view of him than she does, whereas actually Harry hasn't always been, in her eyes, the kindest man. And I think there's a lot of that in elements of those relationships. I think sometimes, people aren't perfect. They make mistakes. And a lot of the time when dementia or Alzheimer's comes in at a later life, you forget who those people were as much as they forget everything else as well. It's very easy to kind of see them as one thing, whereas they weren't always that person. They were a vibrant human being in their own right. And I think that is a really important thing to sort of look at and kind of be more aware of as well. And the speech at the end that Phil Davis does so beautifully was really about kind of what people forget. And that's what I really saw as a child. When you see the patients who are suffering from Alzheimer's, they're seen as one thing, often by the staff treated like or talked about in a certain way. And they were like us once. And I think people forget, very understandably again, that does happen. And I just wanted to make sure that people remember who their relatives were and how they would want to be treated as well, even though they don't come across as that anymore.
Well, that's a beautiful arc that's going through all the 5 parts of the audio drama itself that you've based on the play, is that you've got this arc where he's talking about this recording device, and this is the outcome of it at the end, where you've got this recording that is made over all these different times. He keeps mentioning, he's got to go and do a recording. And that's what it leads up to. I don't mind admitting that all 3 of us have discussed this before, that my reaction to that, I was actually in tears in a way because of that, because it brought home to me the effects of my mum's passing last year and from Alzheimer's, and the whole experience of it as well. It just touched on it beautifully. It caught that perfectly, the whole experience of Alzheimer's that's there. And it was so moving and emotional to me personally.
I think when Phil recorded it, he was on his own in the studio and we were all sort of in bits at the end. I think it's he performed it in a way that I couldn't even have predicted. I mean, it was when the original production of the play happened, that version of Harry was wonderful too. And I'm really glad that it resonates with people. I do need to stop making people cry. But I'm really glad that it resonates with people and for people who've experienced the disease, which I found since this play has come out is pretty much everybody. A lot of people have been touched by dementia and Alzheimer's in some way. And yeah, I'm really glad that it resonates with people and hopefully will kind of have more of an impact as a result.
That last speech is the one that made me want to do more with it as a play, because that monologue, it's delivered by Harry on his own. And it's so beautifully visual in its own way. So it works both as theatre and it works both as audio, because you get, the pictures are better on the radio. You can imagine that the cracking of the ice in the glass, the sounds and things and images and feelings he's describing, which is so lovely. And there was somebody sniffing in the room at the performances of the theatre. And Phil took us down one by one in the studio. I think we did 4 takes of that. And I think by the end of it, the only person who claimed to be unmoved was the studio engineer, but I don't believe him.
No, I don't believe him at all. There's no way. I mean, I've seen the footage that you've put up on the socials of Phil recording that actual dialogue. And even just watching him record it and the emotion that he put into the to the actual performance itself was just, really emotive.
Yeah, he's one of those actors who, if I say doesn't have to act much, it almost sounds like I'm being rude. No, he had to do very little to really, or seemingly do very little to get across something that was sort of subtle and quiet and equally intense.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's a performance that is understated.
Yes.
One where he, if someone else was doing it, they might have overacted in some ways the emotion of it and this, that, and the other, whereas it's almost natural. It feels like just a normal person doing it. And I think that's the magic about Phil's performance in it. And I think it's the magic about everybody's performance in the audio drama that I listened to, is there is a natural human emotion and feel there. These feel like real people and not like actors playing parts.
Yes, well, that's the good thing about hiring good actors, that that you'll get you'll get that natural performance, and especially with audio, you don't want people overacting or overplaying something. You don't need to. There's no big audience looking to see what your hands are doing or expressions on your face. It's more like television or film acting. The subtleties are up close, and when someone's talking right to you in your ear, it just feels much more personal as well.
So you've put it on as a play on stage. And then what made you think, this would actually be good in an audio drama or an audio play setting?
Well, I think because this was 2013 we first performed it.
Yeah.
And even at the time, I thought it would be nice to do more with this. I'm not sure what but it needs a bigger audience. And at that time, I was working as a voiceover artist. I was doing some radio production work, but I wasn't doing audio drama. And it wasn't until sort of 2018, 2019, when I started working with B7 Media and Andrew Mark Sewell, who directed Harry's Home. Because I directed the theatre play, I said, no, it needs someone else on it now. I'm too close to it. It needs a new set of ears. That I thought about doing it as audio drama, because I just thought it lends itself really well. I think the original script had, what did we have? Because we had to change the noise that Harry reacts to. There was something that he was reacting to that didn't quite work for audio.
Yes, it was creaking pipes in the ceiling. I think he was worried about noises in the night, but I think we added the crow sound effects because we
that was, yes, it was the TV.
Yeah.
He wasn't getting a good signal on the TV, so he wanted to go up and mess about with the aerial, which didn't quite work as well in audio, and we needed some throughout the cues of the crows that would set him off, that sort of thing. So it was how to get it from that to where we ended up. What had we just done? I'd been doing a little bit of audio work with B7. We finished a commission. It had gone out on Radio 4. I think that was Bard. And I just thought, I wonder what else we've got. What else have I got the back of my mind that maybe we could try and produce? And yep, Harry's Home came up. I thought, this is perfect. But even then, it took a while. We did try it out on a couple of platforms. We tried it with Audible, we tried it with the BBC, and then just went, we'll do it ourselves. We all, like Hannah said, at the time of the original play, I didn't have anyone in my family affected by dementia or Alzheimer's. And in the last 3 years, both my mum and my dad have been diagnosed with Alzheimer's or dementia. My dad incidentally called Harry, which has nothing to do with the play, but it sort of tied it all in and made it all feel very personal. So, we just thought we'd give it a go. We set up a crowdfund. We spoke to people we knew, and gradually over a few months, we managed to pull together enough money for the actors, ultimately pay some of the crew as well. One of the studios we work with regularly donated a couple of days' time to record it. And those are the people who are all on the credits as sort of thank yous and contributors or executive producers. And it was useful having Nicola on board quite early as well. She's someone we've worked with several times, and she's a good friend of Andrew, the director. So she very quickly said yes to doing it.
Okay, so what is the history then? You said that there's a link there between you and Nicola from back when. Was that based upon just happenstance, or were you working on something together that introduced you both?
Well, she's a good friend of Andrew, the director. He knows her from her Doctor Who days because he was working at the BBC at the time, and he knows her from then.
Yeah.
I think they've worked on a couple of other things before I knew her. But we made a series for Audible a few years ago, 2019, I think, called The Effect, which was a drama thriller, and she played one of the characters in that. So I knew her from that. And I've seen her since because socially we might meet up, or she was at a convention in Portsmouth that we were also at as B7 Media. So, we met up socially for that as well. And I think that was when we actually told her about Harry's Home. So she was interested from that point. That was about 3-4 years ago.
Okay, so that people can look out there, and I do suggest that they do the research. Helen has also been involved for Audible, The Space Race, The Effect, Greenbourne, and Marriage Bureau. Is that one that you're involved, or is that somebody else?
That was a stage play. So that Marriage Bureau was about the establishing of Britain's first dating agency by Mary Oliver and Heather Jenner. And one of the writers we work with regularly was working on another project, found this book, discovered it was a memoir, and Mary's voice in it was so strong and so candid about the work she was doing. But he acquired the rights by talking to all of Mary's descendants. B7 Media republished the book Marriage Bureau. Richard adapted it for the stage, and whilst that was in development hell with everybody else, again, a bit like I did with Harry's Home, I spoke to one of the local drama groups that I'm involved with and said, can we stage this? Can this be one of your productions for your season? And that's what we did. So Marriage Bureau, a similar thing, actually, almost identically to Harry, except Marriage Bureau has not gone on and been adapted for audio. Harry has moved on and been done for audio. So that was the origins of that. But most recently I did a drama for Radio 4, which was on Christmas Eve last year. So it's still on BBC Sounds, and that's The Truth About Phyllis Twigg, the very first female dramatist for radio, who was initially forgotten, and her credit was taken by a man. So we put that right.
You beat me to that one again there,
All right.
because that was next on my list. It's fine. So What about yourself, Anna? What other work should people look for from yourself, do you think?
Well, most of my work has been theatre, but I think my main kind of drama that they can listen to is Harry's Home at the moment. But I'm hoping to adapt some more of my scripts to audio drama in the future. I think working with Helen and Andrew and Soundhouse has really it's just been such a brilliant experience. If anything, it's widened a huge amount of my work to be able to be adapted in the future. And it's a very kind of broad world in audio drama, and it can really bring things to life in a different way to theatre, which I think is really lovely. So yeah, I'm hoping that I'm going to have some more things in the future sort of adapted from theatre, but most of my work has been theatre to date.
It's interesting reading the credits of Harry's Home, and I just think to myself that for some reason, both of you working together, you've got a great production crew behind you, and the cast is amazing as well. So is that a crew that you are used to using?
Well, yes, to some extent, because this was an in-house production, essentially something we wanted to do rather than it being a commission or being asked to do it by another broadcaster or a production company or something. We had complete control who we used. So, of course, at the start, we had no money. So we had to sound people out and say, if we were to do this, would you be interested? There may be a fee, there may not be. We're going to see how it goes. But fundamentally, would you like to read the script and would you like to be involved? I mean, we started off with Colin Brake, who's one of our script writers and editors that we've used in the past, helped Hannah with turning Harry into an audio version. And that's where the flashbacks came from, with Harry, his little monologues in the theatre became the recordings in the audio of him recording stuff for posterity. And I think that's one of the most poignant moments, actually, when Keith says to him, what happened to those recordings you made? And he's like, what are you talking about? So only we hear them at that point. We don't know at what point they were discovered by the family. Maybe they weren't. Maybe they were just for the listeners' ears. But that's how those were adapted. Soundhouse, as I say, we've worked with them a lot. Almost everything we produce, we record at Soundhouse because we have a good relationship with them. Alex, who did the sound design, the post-production, he was someone, he was new to us. He'd been in touch with us before and we'd exchanged messages, and he's very experienced sound designer and editor. Does a lot of TV work, a lot of documentaries, and wanted to do some more work with sound design. Again, same with Sophie, the composer. She'd been in touch and we'd had a chat a few years ago, 2-3 years ago. And I said, oh, we've got this thing coming up. And she's done a lot of work recently. She did a BBC Radio 4 drama about a boy who meets David Bowie as a child. So if you haven't listened to that, I can't remember what the title was, but that's a really lovely piece as well. Nicola, you know about. Timothy, we'd worked with a few times. I think we realised with Harry's Home, he's one of the actors we've worked with the most because he's a really good one to call on to do certain roles, sort of young man roles. And I think this was maybe his 5th role with us in some form. Rose was new. We had someone else lined up who unfortunately could no longer do the dates, and we asked an agent we know well who went, you've got to have Rose, and she was brilliant. Can't imagine anyone else doing it now. Josh, again, worked on, we hired him for Greenbourne, which you mentioned earlier, which is the soap opera.
Yeah.
He played one of the regular characters in that and has also, in his own right, done a lot of video games, a lot of other audio dramas. Lovely Scottish brogue, so a contrast with some of the other voices. And yes, finally, Phil. We threw quite a lot of names around as possibles, but never really settled on any one. We always had a sort of a long list rather than a short list. But it wasn't until I think Andrew and I were watching an episode of Inside Number 9. The great short form dramas, Andrew. We've got to watch these.
Yeah.
And up pops Phil in this episode, and we both just went, "Oh, of course, him! It has to be Phil." And he very kindly came on board. Read the script. Again, another actor with experience of family with Alzheimer's or dementia. And he's been very, very supportive. He joined us for the listeners' party when we released it for everyone to hear. Quite unusual for an actor at that level to take part in that kind of thing, which was very lovely of him. And I think he's done a couple of interviews since, because I remember he messaged me and said, what are the details? Where can Harry's home be found? Because I want to tell people in this interview. So yeah, he's been really good, and obviously spectacular performance as well.
We were really lucky with the cast. They're just brilliant.
Yeah.
All of them were absolutely phenomenal.
And we had some support as well from Heard Plus, which was an AUK Studios platform. And yes, a couple of other people who were just very generous and gave us some donations to help towards cast fees, production fees, that kind of thing.
One of the things that I love about it is that it sort of reminds me of the old so many part audio plays that we used to get in the, I'm going to age myself now, in the 80s and the 90s from the BBC back then, where there was a real, they did a lot of these where there was like a poignant message behind it that they wanted to get into it. And it was like a family drama where it was about something in particular to get something across, which they don't seem to do that much of anymore, but we'll leave that one alone. Although I do love your production on BBC Radio 4, The Truth About Phyllis Twig. I'll just put that out there.
Thank you. As I said, still available on BBC Sounds.
It is, yes. And all of those shows we mentioned on Audible are all available on Audible, by the way. But yeah, it's got that sort of feel to it to me of the good radio plays that we used to get.
Yeah, that was deliberate. So I listened to a couple of the stories about the old BBC and found them a little bit staid and a little bit over, I was talking about earlier, slightly overdone, overplayed. And I just wanted something that was snappy and lighthearted for Christmas and fun. But again, it's the BBC's remit of inform, educate and entertain. I think we ticked those boxes with that. That was the idea. And of course, Tamsin Greig and Rory Kinnear were just brilliant. So they made my life very easy.
Again, you've got the cast. Just they're just there. These people are just, yeah, we'll be in that. It doesn't seem like there's any sort of celebrity style thing going on with these people that you seem to be getting for these plays.
I think it's not something that's that common in audio, interestingly. I think it's very much, when I say it's a level playing field in the studio, it's because there's so few of you. Audio and radio generally has much lower budgets, far fewer overheads. So when you turn up to record it on the day, there's no lighting crew, assistant directors running around, craft services, all of the things that make up a TV or film production. There might be 6 of you. There'll be the studio engineer, the producer, the director, the writer and the actors. That's it. I think even that, there was on the day, there was me, Hannah, Andrew, Wilfredo, who was working the desk for us, and the actors in the studio. And Soundhouse being a full service thing, they've got people who will come in and do coffee or order the lunch and sort of help you out, that kind of thing. So it is a very much a level playing field. Everyone is sitting around the tables in the kitchen enjoying lunch, and you could have, it could have someone, Benedict Cumberbatch, sitting there eating his sandwiches at the same time as someone else is recording an audio book down the hall. And for that reason, it makes it often a much more pleasant and relaxed experience because there isn't so much of a hierarchy going on in the production.
But then in the world of audio drama and audio plays as well, I mean, I've done some voice acting in a couple of them myself. I find it sort of more interesting in a sense, especially looking at Harry's Home with the writing of Hannah and the story there, is that there's almost more of a interest for me when I've done acting in similar things. There's more of an interest for me because the story itself has something more for me as a performer to go into than, say, a big production piece, which is almost, I don't know, there's less interest in that for me than there is in something like the work that you're doing. It gives more to work with, if that makes sense.
I would say, I don't know if Hannah might agree with this or not, but because it's audio, you have to think about every line. There is no visual reference for you to see someone's emotional reaction. You've got to craft the exact words to convey that emotion without being heavy-handed or clunky about it. And writing for audio drama really is a skill. It's some people have it, some don't. I've listened to some. I remember listening to 2 dramas back to back. I won't name them. One of them was exceptionally good and completely natural, and the story came across. The other one I listened to was very much along the lines of Timothy West's "The gun in my right hand is loaded," just to make sure you knew which character was speaking. Yeah. Names were used all of the time. It's like, why are you trying to open that door? You should be trying to open this door with the red button on it. It's just, you start noticing it's being over-egged. It's not natural enough. And it is entirely possible to do, as these 2 dramas I listened to demonstrated. One of them was an easy listen, absolutely perfect. I followed the story. The other one was too busy telling me where all the parts were.
Yeah.
And Harry's Home is all about the emotion of the piece. There's no big, it's all in one house. It's all in one space. You know where they are within the house, but there's no attempt to overly describe the space. It's about the people.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'd say as well about the sound design as well, I had in my head these really strong crows all the way through I just had this kind of audio playing in my mind of what I imagined. And Alex, is it Marku? Am I
Yes,
pronouncing
Marku,
that
yeah.
right? Marku, who did the sound design, and also Sophie Cotton, who was the composer. It wasn't how I pictured it at all in an entirely wonderful way, because it was so subtle, and it just threaded these things through, and it wasn't invasive. It just continued the story through, and I thought that was so beautiful, having heard it recorded on the day, and then hearing how it all came together with the music and also the sound design. And I think, as Helen's saying, I think audio drama can be incredibly subtle. You need to give people cues, but also leave the audience and the people listening to it to have some imagination about how they want to visualize something, in a way that theatre and TV absolutely allows you to do. But I think audio is just so much broader in that sense. And it's just this wonderfully kind of wide canvas that you can enjoy. And I always wanted, my writing always looks at relationships between people, and the pauses between what they say, and what comes across when somebody isn't saying quite what they mean. And that's what I really loved. And I thought that came across in the actors who brought the play to life as well.
I think Mike Bartlett is very good at writing stuff that people aren't saying. Quite a lot of his work, I whenever I've seen it or read it, I've thought what people are saying is not what they're really saying.
Yeah,
and I think that's always really well done. But actually, I found with the sound design, and this isn't unique to Harry, that you will have initial pass from the sound designer, and you will often go back. The notes are take stuff out, not put stuff in. And that's usually a good place to come from, because then you can sort of whittle it down. So like Hannah was saying, mentally in my head, I'm like, oh yeah, I'll be full of crows. And then you get the sound and then go, too many crows. Right. You got to cut the crows. And even other things, like when Harry's eating crisps, there was a lot of crisp eating initially, but it became slightly distracting. So it got scaled back, and the crunchers became more precise and considered where they were going to go rather than throughout. Things like that. And it's really, it's often what you take out than what you put in.
Yeah. When I went to the podcast show last week, I was speaking with people about there seems to be a push for video in the podcasting world. And I was saying to them that, to me personally, I find that the best audio drama, it's an interactive experience where you're not holding somebody's hand and saying to them or showing to them, like that with the Timothy West that you were saying there, oh, you've got a gun in this hand, blah, 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 and you explaining everything. I think the best audio drama is where you don't do that, but you allow the imagination of the actual listener to almost be another character in themselves inside the drama itself.
Yeah, the word immersive gets used a lot with audio drama. And I think to the point where some commissioners have I never want to see this word on a pitch again, because all audio drama, if it's done well, is immersive. You're stating the obvious, essentially. But the visualized podcasts thing does not extend to audio drama at the moment. I have seen some examples. I think Sherlock and Co. have done it, where they've taken the drama, the audio, and have someone create art or animation. Not necessarily, I haven't watched it. I've seen some of the images, but it is on YouTube. So they've done it the other way around. They've recorded the audio and then added the pictures, a bit like any other animation film would do. And I wonder if that's a route people might try. But again, and possibly AI might be part of that, which is a whole other conversation, in order to do things more cheaply than hiring a whole animation studio, or if you're going to hire a crew to shoot images for audio, just shoot the film, do the whole thing. That you can't really separate them that way. So I think at the moment, visualized podcasts are staying in rooms with comfy sofas and shelves and plants, and people will talk about books, film, politics, sport, anything at that point. I don't think it will get to audio drama in quite the same way. I hope not, because I don't think that'll work.
I hope not, because I enjoy that. Like I said, it's a word that people don't like to use, or executives don't like to use. The immersive nature of audio drama, there is nothing else like it at all. That experience of listening to it and being, like I said, being involved in it, whereas it's completely different to have visuals go along with it. It just doesn't give me as much.
There's a good reason why, storytelling going back hundreds of thousands of years was families and groups and communities sitting around talking to each other and making up stories. The earliest ghost stories were probably thousands of years ago. And it is that. I think there is some research saying that anything you listen to, because it's a personal experience, because of whatever pictures or sounds or your hearing or how you receive that audio in your brain, your retention of it is better. People can recall a story better if it is verbally told to them rather than read or watched.
Yes.
It's like all forms of art, really, where they have their own individual experience, such as when you go to watch a play on a stage. It's a completely different experience to watching that play on a stage with the audience there with you and you're there while it's going on, to then watching a recording of it on a screen. That is a different experience. Going to a concert is different to go watching a concert. Watching a ballet, I mean, I've watched a few of those with my other half. That is different there. Watching a ballet on a stage with an orchestra there and that whole thing, to watching it on a screen. And like I said, with audio drama, there is nothing else like it. All these things have their own specific aspect, really.
They're all social experiences.
Yeah.
You are sharing it socially with 100, 200, 1,000 people, but an audio drama with your headphones on is just you.
Yeah. And that's what's so lovely about Harry's Home being an audio drama now, is that the theatre production brought it to life, and now you can listen to it on the tube. You don't have to kind of go to a physical place. You can just listen to it wherever you are. And I think that's the nice part of the audio nature of the audio dramas, is that you can just listen in your own little cubicle inside your head. You can just imagine it yourself. You don't get sort of given the images. You can imagine it all in your own sort of vision of the world, your own experiences, building it, which I think is really lovely.
Yes, that's true. Your own personal experiences of places, of times, of people influence what you build in your head when you're listening.
Yeah, your own lens on the world will shape how you see it, which I think is very different. When you're given an image, it's very different. Not worse necessarily, but it's just very different.
Yeah, it's a different experience. Like I said, different forms of art are therefore different experiences. So you'll get a different experience from that, watching this or doing that. That's why they're all different like that. What's the reaction been like since Harry's Home came out as an audio drama?
Similar to yours, messages saying how lovely it is, that how people identify with it, if it made them emotional, which we're not deliberately turning the screws on that. We don't have to. It's all in the writing and the performance. And I think actually, as part of that, we're not deliberately making it sad. It actually has a certain, one of my favorite things about it is the dignity of it. Yeah. At no point do you necessarily feel sorry for Harry or the family, but you identify with the experience and his reflections on it. Yeah, that's it's all been good. You may have noticed that Rose Quentin's mum, Caroline Quentin, clearly proud of her daughter and of the production. She very kindly did a couple of social posts about it, which was lovely and has obviously boosted the listenership. Thank you, Caroline. And yeah, there's been other shares and posts as well, which is lovely.
Yeah, I've had a lot of people, as you yourself, Martin, know, come to me about experiences they've had in their own life that I didn't know they had a relative or a family member who's had dementia or Alzheimer's. So I think it hopefully is starting conversations and making people think. And I think a lot of the reaction has been around, in some ways, a positive sort of view of Harry as a person, which I hope comes across. That was always my intention. I'm not a massive fan of shows that kind of make an elderly person immediately kind of senile or say, that's a terrible word, sorry, but so they would say an elderly character on screen is often portrayed in a certain way, which always irritates me slightly. So I kind of wanted to avoid that as best I can, although we're talking about Alzheimer's and a disease that is kind of progressive. I wanted him to have his own core as well. And I think that's some of the feedback I've had from people who've listened to it, who've kind of enjoyed his character and the interactions that he has with people. And also about Rob, the carer, who's played by Josh. And, caring is such a huge part of Alzheimer's disease. And bringing carers into light as well, as much as you can, is always really important, because the support that somebody with Alzheimer's and dementia needs is enormous, and it's a huge toll on anybody. And even if you're employed to do it, it's still a huge toll on them. So, yeah, I think lots of people have kind of talked about that as well, which has been lovely.
Yeah, there's a warmth to the actual drama itself, as opposed to, well, if it was from a big production team, they'd probably play up the more heartstrings side to it. Whereas this, it's not purposely trying to pull at you, it's just natural and not forced.
Yeah, I would hope any production that took it on after that didn't try and layer on the emotion. I have seen things where I've just thought, this is so sad, this is so sad. You're overdoing it now, and I'm now not sad anymore. And now I'm being cynical. And I've never felt cynical about Harry's Home. I just thought it found the level beautifully.
So I don't know whether I should really pick up on the limited release. It's available on Bandcamp, and where else is it available?
Oh, well, I wouldn't say it's a limited release. I'd say if its limitations are as a result of us having to produce it ourselves. There's only a certain number of outlets. We were making it available for free on purpose because of the number of people who gave their time. It's not really fair for us to make any kind of profit, even if we were to direct it towards charities and so on. We're going to make it. It's a philanthropic gesture for everyone to hear it if they want to. So it's on, as you say, it's on B7 Media's Bandcamp page, our own platform, audioteria.com. It's also on Heard Plus's platform. So that's the AUK Studios company who supported its production. It's also going to be on Care Radio, which is an online radio station nationally, but it's also on digital radio, I think around Manchester and parts of London. That's going to be sometime next month.
Okay.
So you can hear it on the radio station, and it'll be available on their website as well.
Okay. So what advice would you give to people wanting to make audio drama themselves?
Well, lots of people do. I mean, some of the biggest audio drama was entirely self-produced by a couple of people starting, I think, they've been going 10 years now, essentially recording with a microphone and treating it as, this was the Magnus archives, and their witness statements of spooky, weird events. And each episode, quite short, 10 to 12 minutes, treated to sound like a tape recording. With the device for that is explained at the beginning, why they're using a tape recorder rather than a computer, which hides any defects in the recording space or anything like that. And they were sort of 60, 70 episodes in of those, quietly and slowly building a story, slowly expanding the cast, slowly establishing a fan base. They weren't using Patreon initially, but they went on to use Patreon to build the funds, to be able to pay people, to pay writers, designers, sound designers, recording people, buying kit. And I think now they've I think they hit 1 billion downloads in the last year or so.
Yeah, fantastic.
Millions of downloads, huge following. It means they could build a studio space, they can hire guest they've just got bigger and bigger and bigger. So the easiest thing to do is just get started. But the most important thing you need is a good writer, and a good writer who understands audio drama, and then you're off.
So how do you write a good write, Hannah?
Well, it's like we were saying before. It's understanding. When I say show, don't tell, it's almost the opposite thing to do with audio. You kind of feel like, well, no one can see, so of course I've got to tell. No, make every word count and understand why it counts.
Yeah, and there's so many kind of techniques out there, but I think to any writers listening who are perhaps more used to visual theatre or TV or something like that, and who may not have jumped into the world of audio, as somebody who always kind of I'm a very visual person. It's an enormously sorry, I'm going to say immersive again, but it's an enormously new kind of experience for me, particularly listening to it. And I think just absolutely jump in with both feet. I don't want to do too many kind of metaphors, but I think audio dramas themselves open you up to so many possibilities. And Helen knows I'm, as my family are, we're a huge Hitchhiker's Guide fans. And it was the first audio drama I listened to. And of all of the things that I would have thought you couldn't do because of my, I was very young at the time, I would think, science fiction and things like that. You couldn't do that on radio because it's also visual. And it's one of the most wonderful, joyous, hilarious productions. So I think, just open your mind to go big. I would say do something bigger than you can imagine, because audio will be able to achieve it, I think. And I think just experiment and see where you go with it, and don't rule it out, because it's honestly been, for me, it's been an absolutely fantastic experience. I'm very, very privileged to have worked with all of these people. I'm really grateful to Helen and Andrew and Nicola for bringing this to life, because it really has been a brilliant production for me.
Yeah, and having said start small, I don't necessarily mean with your location. When I say you could be doing monologues, but you could be anywhere. You could be sitting up a tree in a jungle on an alien planet. All you need is the sound design. You can't shoot that with a camera, because that would cost you a fortune. But
yeah, you can start small physically.
Yes.
Think big.
But the world building can be as big as you want. Yeah.
Absolutely. Have you got any projects coming up, either of you, that people should keep a lookout for?
It's not audio, but having worked with B7 Media, I joined just after they'd finished producing and releasing the Dan Dare audio adventures. So they're still floating around, but as a result, we've now got a reputation for having done successful updates of Dan Dare. And just last month, a crowdfunder ended to help us fund Dan Dare First Contact, which is when I say it's not even a reimagining, they're going back to the beginning. It's called First Contact because it's how the gang got together and how they head out to space and discover that there's the Mekon out there, and that's book 1. And that's the art's by Mark Laming, the script is by Alex de Campi. We overfunded it, which was great, because these things are not cheap to make. And if you want to go and take a look at some of the work that has been done so far, the artwork is just beautiful. I'm relatively new to comic book production, but it is absolutely stunning.
Yeah, beautiful.
Search Dan Dare First Contact on the Kickstarter. I think we're still taking late pledges as well. So if you want one of the Kickstarter edition hardbacks, get in and place your order now. I'm not sure how much longer that will go on for, but we're hoping to get it done and out there in time for Christmas, so November. And hopefully, fingers crossed, once the Kickstarter copies have gone out, obviously, because the backers get first look, we might have some books at Thought Bubble in November.
Fantastic. Hannah, anything coming up?
Well, yes, please look out for Harry's Home on Care Radio next month, I think Helen said.
Don't know the date exactly, but I'm told it's next month.
And yeah, I'm kind of working on a few. I'm actually thinking about an audio drama, which I wrote a while ago, but it's having written Harry's Home, it's quite a dramatic, beautiful piece, and I'd quite like to work on something lighter. So I'm looking at a comedy which is about the admin office in the afterlife. So I will. I'll be working on that. So yeah. I will almost certainly be talking to Helen about that at some point in the future as well.
There is a commissioning window open. How quick can you get me a pitch?
Amazing. Well, there we
are. Well, you heard it first here. There you go. How can people get in touch with you if they want to, Helen?
Well, I tend to use for social stuff is a good place to start. I'm HQ Voice on Instagram. That's open. You can follow or message on that, see what's going on. On Blue Sky, I tend to use, I put a username on there of the company that I use for making podcasts when I'm doing personal projects. That's soundliness.com on Blue Sky. Yeah, that's the best place to start. And then drop me a message that way.
Okay. Hannah?
And yeah, Instagram is a good place for me. So h.puddefoot. Is my handle. So yeah, people can get in touch through Instagram with me.
Thank you for speaking with me today. You can find Pods Like Us anywhere that podcasts can be found, and all of the links to the social media and email are available on the opening page of themarvzone.org. That's the Marv, spelt M-A-R-V, zone.org. The show is distributed and sponsored by RSS.com, and we thank them for their support. Please rate and review the show on the platform that you are listening or viewing the episode on. All feedback is gratefully received, as it helps to know if there is anything that needs to be looked at. Thank you for listening, and I hope you listen again to another episode of Pods Like Us.